And so much talk about auctions, always auctions. Why do people talk about them? Because they're the sensitive part of the market and they're like a barometer as to what's happening out there. And as we heard, 45% clearance rates back off from the 70 or 80%. But is that the end of the world for auctions? I don't think so. So joining me here today to discuss everything auction is the Society of Auctioneers and Appraisers of South Australia's president, and it's Sharon Gray. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Anthony.
Now, Sharon, tell me about Sharon.
Oh, Sharon Gray. Been selling real estate for about 10 years. I've been an auctioneer for about 7, mother of 2, and property owner.
Okay, good.
Which means I've got a mortgage.
Good for you. Now, Sharon, I was there when you came in as president. You're the first female president ever in the history of the industry of the auctioneers and appraisers.
Yes, yep. that's true. So
how does it feel?
Well, it's good actually. I'm enjoying it so far. It's busy. But hopefully I can do a job as well as the people that have gone before me, so if not better.
Yeah, good work. Now tell me, is it an old boys club?
No, it's not. I don't know. Some of them might like it to be, but I don't think they've got that opportunity anymore. So no, it's good. There's a lot of support within the society, and there's more women becoming involved, so it's fantastic.
Sharon, as I said on the nights you came in, I just think it's fantastic. It's great for the industry. Now talk to me about female auctioneers. There's a number that have passed through and some have stuck to it. How many are in the industry and what's it like to be a female auctioneer?
Well, I love auctioneering. I'm probably a failed drama student probably. But there are quite a few females within the industry who are qualified to be auctioneers. I think there's probably about 5, maybe 6 women who are actually auctioning in the field. The Society of Auctioneers and Appraisers runs a fantastic 3-day training school for men and women, obviously. And it's just those who choose to go on and compete in the field, I suppose, with the boys. And so how many would there be out there? There's about 5 or 6 of us that are actually in the field at the moment. And active? Yep. How do you go with voice projection and, you know, sort of the natural differences between a big burly auctioneer with a big voice, not just I am, but, you know, you get the big guys and the big voices. Yeah, how do you compete? Well, obviously every auctioneer's got their own style, so the women have a bit of a point of difference in the marketplace. I don't think one commands more attention than the other, but our training does cover voice projection and that sort of thing as well, body language, all that sort of thing. So if you're a female watching this today and you're thinking of getting into a different field, you'd recommend it? Oh, most definitely. And I think if you come along and do the training, especially women who are already selling in the industry, and we've got a lot of women who are fantastic auction marketers. They list a lot of properties for sale by auction, and if they come and did the training, they might find that they could get rid of that guy that turns up every 4 weeks and, and have a go themselves. Good on you. Now let's get to the property market. 45% clearance rates, it's dropped a lot. Is that a disaster for auctions? No, it's not a disaster for auctions. I think what we need to focus on as well is that the auction campaign is actually a whole process. It's not just about what happens on auction day. Obviously a result under the hammer is fantastic, but the auction process gives you 3 opportunities to sell your property prior to the auction, on auction day, and it would be really interesting to note how many properties sell the very next week after an auction may have been passed in, because I think you would find that there are a lot of properties that sell very quickly after the auction day. Well, I can tell you from our experience, which is pretty extensive, it fast tracks and supercharges the whole process. So most definitely. Spot on. And the third? The third point, so you go at before, auction. Prior to, yep. On auction day and afterwards, you can negotiate afterwards. So essentially you would consider it a successful auction, even though statistically it's not part of it, if it's sold within a fortnight of the auction? Yeah, within a fortnight is probably a reasonable time frame to expect. A lot of them do sell within that first 10 days after the auction date. So yeah, we have to get onto the stats and work out exactly how many are involved with that. Now we talk about it, we're very familiar with it, but what about those that aren't with auction? How much more money does it cost them to auction versus selling by private treaty? Well, virtually nothing really, and that's a bit of a misconception in the marketplace, is that, oh, it's going to cost me a lot more money to advertise my property for an auction campaign. Well, it's not. Generally, you would have a marketing campaign tailored around your budget anyway, so you can spend as little or as much as you like on marketing, but really the auctioneer's fee is the only thing that's any different, and depending on who you use, will depend on how much they charge. So what's the range? You're the president, you know, what's the range out there? Oh look, You can find an auctioneer. Most agencies will have their own auctioneer,
Sure.
and they'll have a set price, but they can be anywhere between sort of $250 and $600, depending on who you have.
And would you suggest using a $250 one? Are they the same as a $600 one?
I would suggest obviously looking at who the company that you're using to sell your property with, and they would generally have an auctioneer as a corporate auctioneer. If you wanted to go and get a freelance auctioneer, I would suggest go and have a look at some of those auctions that they're doing and see whose style you like the most, and then decide which way you want to go.
Okay, now let's move on to why you would sell by auction.
Yes. If you sell by auction, you're getting a cash unconditional offer. So if the hammer comes down and somebody's paid the highest price, then basically you're set. You've got your money. There's no conditions, no subject to. A couple of years ago, we could sign contracts on sales of properties subject to finance and be 99% sure that that deal would go through. However, now money's harder to get, and purchasers need to be a lot more organised to ensure that our clients, the vendors, are getting a cash unconditional offer. So that's probably the most attractive reason to sell by auction campaign, as well as the fact that it's a time frame. You know when your auction is, and you've got a pretty good chance of finalising it in a good time frame.
Okay, so if that's good for the owner of the property, the seller,
Yes.
why on earth would a buyer want to play that game in this current market?
Because a lot of people who are purchasing real estate do view it as a game, and they think that there's all sorts of things happening. So the auction process is completely transparent. So if you're out there bidding for a property, you know exactly where you stand in relation to the other people trying to purchase that same property. So there's no ambiguity, I suppose, to the offer process.
Okay, so you said the finance has to be arranged and it's tough to get finance. What if you buy at auction?
Yes.
And then the bank says, no, I'm not giving you the money. How do you protect yourself?
Well, you need to be organised. If you're a purchaser, you need to go and see either your bank or your mortgage broker and make sure that those funds are available, because the auction process basically will ensure that the vendor has a nice clean contract, but as the purchaser, you're the one taking on the risk of that finance. So you need to make sure that you're good to go before you stick your hand in the air.
And why? What's the benefit for the buyer? Is there a money benefit or what?
Well, in terms of the purchasers, you can be putting your hand up at auction and bid to however high you have to go to get the property. Now, whether or not that reaches the vendor's reserve or not, on auction day, a vendor may choose to take the highest bid rather than take the chance of marketing the property for another 3 or 4 weeks and still not possibly getting what they had at auction. So you may pick that property up for a little bit less than you might have had to lay out in an alternative situation.
Sharon, this is good stuff. We're going to come back to this in a minute, all right?
Okay, no worries.
Okay, but in the meantime, let's go behind the blinds and look at some properties.